Man, I'm coming online because I ain't had somebody to talk to in a minute. So I'm talking now. And it's good to keep talking because once I start talking, my brain stops for a second and I stop typing. I feel like I'm spamming. I love this song. This song inspires me. When I hear it, my brain automatically sees Mercutio from the Romeo and Juliet movie because that's the way Mercutio should be. I'm gonna stop the music. We ain't here to have a music show. So I popped on today to talk. I've been writing a lot of stuff, and I kind of want to talk a little bit about it. I wrote 2 pieces today, and I'm just gonna kind of share a little bit. See my little mouse? Squeak, 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 squeak. Actually, I've written a lot of stuff, and I want to kind of go back and make an actual verbal account of the things, that I've been writing. I'm going to start with Stephen Miller as Melicon. I wrote this piece. Go ahead with y'all. You guys can read it. I'm just going to talk about it. Stephen Miller is in charge of, everything. He's the one who's on point. He's the one who's managing the staff. He's the one who's giving direction and giving expectations. For all accounts, Donald Trump is the Jack Tunney, and I'm going to explain Jack Tunney right now. Jack Tunney was a Canadian professional wrestling promoter, and when he was bought out by WWF, they bought him, his identity, and he still got to be in part with the wrestling community because just like Trump World, you bring people from the work into the fold because you don't want them giving up secrets or being competition. Jack Tunney, during the 80s, was the president who was the guy who was running the show as far as the TV promotion. Donald Trump is the Jack Tunney. He's the figurehead. So why am I taking 2 different concepts and speaking about this? Star Trek's my jam. So I'm talking about Star Trek. There's an episode called Patterns of Force. In the episode Patterns of Force, Stephen Miller, who takes the place of this guy, Melicon. Melicon was a number 2. And he took advantage of the number 1, who was a Star Trek historian, had come to the land. He decided that there was so much chaos that he was going to use fascism to create a clean order. Melicon realized this, incapacitated the Fuhrer, and he had created a dynamic where the people were worshiping the image of John Gill, who was the Star Trek guy, who was the historian, Federation guy. And they worshiped the image of him, but it was Melicon who was making the decisions that were seemingly coming through Gill's mouth. That's Stephen Miller. I wrote the piece. It's if you're not into Star Trek, if you're not like a quirky guy like that, it might not be your jam. But for me, I was excited to get it out of my head. You know what I'm saying? Another piece that I wrote, I'm going to go over the chat right quick. Oh, here we are. Hi. Before I go off to anything else, I want to say what's up to Sacred. I want to say what's up to Kat. If I had more ambition, which I don't, if I had more organized ambition, I would do a show every day and I would give the news headlines and I would utilize only Star Trek. I'm not into sci-fi. You're not going to hear me say Battlestar Galactica. You know what? The only other science fiction kind of franchise you'll hear me say is Doctor Who. and it will always be random because there is nothing linear about Doctor Who. It's so timey-wimey. So, greetings to all y'all joining in the chat. I see we got a few. Welcome to all. I see Joe jumped in. I see Sandra. Woo, what up? Yeah. So I'm going to move on to my next piece so I can discuss a lot of those. I'm going to kind of build up. I lost my job 2 weeks ago. This is my second actual week of being unemployed. To my poor viewership, my brain, all it does is grind. All it does is grind. And then after I publish a piece, it's like I catch a rock and spin off in a different direction. I'm like, hold on now, I could write this. And I go on ahead and do it. So poor everybody. But I just want to talk about it. I haven't really been feeling, you know what I mean? It's hard to be confident when the anchor and Kat, I'm feeling for you. But in retrospect of not having a master to serve, Dobby feels like a free elf. And my brain has just been everywhere. You know what I mean? I'm going to go off into my next piece. I feel like I dropped off something that I was saying, but I'm going off into my next piece here. My next piece, I dropped off at Melicon. I'm going to talk about terrorism, the American export. This is my next piece. A lot of what I do in this piece and the images that I was using for these was very much based on, the Biden era, I did that stickers. I'm listening to everybody talk, and I say everybody. I mean, we're kind of at a place where there isn't like a channel. It's just voices that we plug into. And I really want to emphasize that while we talk about terrorism, we talk about everywhere else but here. We talk about people from foreign places, when in reality, America as a culture has given us terrorism of people who are experiencing the actual American experience, which is Black, brown, and indigenous people, while the rest of us serve. Yeah, I'm going to get into it later with a different piece, but for the most part, white America, it's like having been groomed and then grooming the next generation in the same way without realizing we've been groomed, in Black and brown communities, they had to communicate with each other. And that way there was more of that gossip style of communication, that community, the stuff that stands out sticks and the stuff that's bullshit goes away. But the truth remains, the culture remains, people are connected. Whereas white America, there wasn't that back and forth dialogue. There was the television set with people with money telling us that we want skinny white girls with blonde hair and things that cost money. And, they very much give us our perspective. And that's what white America is. Like, if you go back to the radio program, it's an op. It's rebuilding white America in an image that doesn't include Black and brown America. So like in this piece, what I'm talking about for the most part, and I called it, and I always put little jokes in it, like personal inside my head jokes, that other people really aren't gonna get. This one, I named it Terrorism, the American Export. We did that, after the I did that stickers. That's my Trump. Yeah, so I get excited about that kind of stuff. I get excited about writing about it. But at the end of the day, once it's out of my head, I just automatically going into the next program. You know what I mean? And once I go into the next program, I kind of tie little bits into the next piece. I just want to thank you, Courtney, specifically. Thank you. Hey, I'm just kind of looking back at a little bit of the chat. Kat, I have I'm kind of in a place in my unemployment, whereas I know for a fact I was wrongly terminated. I wrote, and I'm a writer. Before I found Substack, I would write to HR about corporate policy, about logistics methods. I made a. I'm going to say I made a joke. This Chromebook that I'm using right now, I literally bought so I could write a book how to freaking warehouse that I could hand on, secret society around people in the Target warehouse that I worked. I know I was wrongly terminated. I know what I did. I know what happened. I know my rights. I know the rules. So I wrote my 14-page grievance with annotations from emails from 2024, very contemporary, very all that. I wrote that to corporate HR, and I am hoping that I hear a little bit. With that being said, I also did my unemployment stuff, and I'm hoping that also happens in a bit. Because right now, when I say I'm a dude on the couch, I mean, I get up to make sure that my lady is taken care of as far as eating, make sure that her clothes are washed and dried. And basically, I'm just facilitating my woman to go to her job, mind you. And I'm expressing this publicly in front of God, the green grass, and everybody. I was first impressed by my girlfriend. When I first met her, I didn't know her. I listened, I watched for a couple weeks, and I saw her sitting with her friend, and they would talk and talk and talk. And I realized through talking to people, these people were just interested in the job, not bullshit, not gossip. I was so impressed by my current girlfriend. When I didn't know her, I says, y'all don't need to stop talking. I just want to sit near you because you guys have the energy that I'm trying to get. Before too long, she was getting mad when I'd go home early, stuff gets light. I want to go. And then she invited me over to the house. I came to her house. I stayed the night. I said, I'm out of underwear. She bought me more underwear so I didn't have to leave. After a few weeks, we just moved all my shit in because, And I've been here since. We're going on 7 years. 7. So when I'm talking about my girlfriend, I'm a laborer. I'm a monkey. I worked at UPS for 8 years. 5 of it, all I did was load and unload trailers. I can build blocks like nobody's business. My girlfriend is doing that physical job now, where before she was doing a less physical job, but now she's doing that physical job in the warehouse. And she works hard. I respect her for her hard work. I'm impressed by her hard work, and knowing with myself the amount of effort that the work she is doing now takes. The only thing that I want to do is facilitate for her to be able to rest, to be able to mend, to be able to get on to the next thing. Because the last thing she needs to worry about is what she's eating today, what she's wearing today, and whether or not she's going to be hydrated. Man, I got spinning. I'm trying to talk about my art. And I also want to say, I appreciate all y'all jumping in this chat. One of my things that I'm really starting to grasp in my new media experience, and mind you, the majority of what I write is media critique. What I'm appreciating, I came to Substack so I could watch Wajahat Ali, and so I could be a part of the new media experience. You know what I mean? And Danielle Moody and Jared Yates Sexton. Man, that's a dude I could listen to talk all day, because the whole time I'm like, yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me. And then I'm putting in the comments on all his stuff, the links to the piece that I just wrote that accommodates what he's saying. I get geeky watching them talk because, yeah, me too. So I guess that's about me. So that's what brought me to Substack. But since I've been coming to Substack, I'm tired of everybody else. I don't want to watch your hour-long podcast. No, Oh, Courtney, yes, I was. Yes, I was. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Marlon Weems. Marlon Weems brought it all together where he's trying to get a more diverse network so that each individual is able to spider off from a core network. Now, yeah, Courtney, that's a good point. Now, I get critical of like Midas and Bulwark, how they do their networking, because both of them, they're making deals with MSN now, CNN, and so I'm starting to see all those people coming in and out, and that's my critique. That's specifically my critique. I want to see people I don't know. I want to see people who did not come from political campaigns. I want to see people who are Shane Urak is my dude. Yeah. Hey, Court, we're on the same beep, beep, beep. We're on the same tune right here. Shane Urak's my dude. He's a freaking kid. And I always say, have mentors younger than yourself. I am highly impressed with Shane. I am highly excited about the product that he puts out. When I hear him talk, there's a register of comprehension. When I read his words, there's study. I am all in on all of I'm all in on Banner and Backbone, all of them. Nick Parrow is another one. I'm excited. With that being said, incoming, now we got our wolf pack. Zev, Lev, Dean, Ellie, Waj, Kate Justice. All of them impressive. I'm starting to lose interest. You know what I'm saying? I'm highly interested in the work product that comes out of Ellie when she's speaking on it. I'm highly interested in the work product that comes out of like Zev. With Lev, man, now that he's on a campaign, I lose interest. Once somebody's selling a book, once somebody's trying to garner money so they can facilitate, I'm out. If the content if the content is valuable, it sticks. Hey, wait, that's actually what Jay-Z said, and I'm not an overall Jay-Z guy. I kind of have backburnered the whole bad boy Jay-Z Jigga era because to me, that's the rape culture that got propagated that I just took out of my media diet. But Jay-Z, he said he never writes down lyrics. He just spits from his head and the good stuff sticks. I remember that being in an interview with James Gandolfini. And he asked a question of him. I heard you don't write your rhymes. And he goes, I don't need to. And then he said the first line and the crowd finished that rap. That's what's up. You know what I'm saying? Why write it down if everybody else can help you out? I'm about to go to my next piece. The piece that I was talking about before. The piece that I was talking about before, like I say, terrorism is the American export. The next piece that I wrote, let me show you real quick. I have this piece called Bellies, Beds, and Babies. If I was going to write a political campaign, my theme would be bellies, beds, and babies. Why would it be bellies, beds, and babies? When you're hungry, you can't go on. You're weakened. You're emotionally different. That's why Ramadan is such a big deal in the Muslim faith. You're weakening your body so that your spirit can come out stronger. You need to be a part of a community. You know what I'm saying? You need to be a better person. What I'm writing in bellies, beds, and babies, it starts with exactly that concept premise. Hungry people can't go on. People who don't know where they're sleeping tonight have that uncertainty, and uncertainty creates a lack of confidence. So when you know when you're going to eat, you know where you're going to sleep, and you have a community that supports food, comfort, then you can have babies for you to raise children in which they can eat, they can sleep, they can grow to have more babies. Beds or bellies, beds, and babies. When I hear James Carville say, it's the economy, stupid, he's talking about all that corporate bullshit that we reject. All the capitalism, all the commercialism, all the media ownership, the job creators. That's not the economy. The economy is facilitating citizens such that they can eat, such that they have a place to sleep, such that they can raise a family in that community safely. So I was writing my piece, Bellies, Beds, and Babies, and bringing it into the Black community, which prior to, like Greenwood and stuff like that, the Black community of freed men and women were able to create a society, whereas America, the terrorist nation, keeps destroying the basis of the economy, which is bellies, beds, and babies. I was done with this piece. I was just editing. I was just, trying to come up with my graphic ideas. And I was in a chat listening, and it was a chat with Wajaha Ali and Allison Gill. I have written my piece on Allison Gill. She is not my jam. I'm going to dip over to the chat real quick and see what y'all got. All right. I'm going back to share my screen. And so I'm going to go into the piece where my tiny tantrum happened, but I mean it. This is legit. When I say I had a tantrum, I mean it pissed me off. Let me kind of read on it. I just dropped out of a live with the left hook with Wajaha Ali and Allison Gill. The live started around 6:30 p.m. Every time they'd make a point, mind you, they were talking about same things over and over. Every time they'd make a point, I'd type a sentence and I'd copy a link to one of my pieces that I'd written. My small section of the chat would move up fast, and after a second, it disappeared. You guys know how chats are. People come in and they geek out, and the more people in a chat, the more kind of frivolous the chat gets. All of a sudden, this person, MX, started kind of calling me out. I didn't like it. Like, it doesn't correspond with my community experience on Substack. So I was mad. I was mad. I was done writing the Bellies, Beds, and Babies piece. I was in the last paragraph editing it. And my interaction with MX pissed me off so bad, I wrote a piece. And when I went to see who this Morgan X, that's why I see at Morgan X, this MX person was, I saw they'd already blocked me. I was like, man, I didn't even interact with this person, which is fine. I don't care. I don't interact with them. It doesn't bother me, but they chumped me first and then blocked me in an uncomfortable situation. So I wrote that this person decided that my small contribution to 1.2 thousand people in the chat was drawing their ire. Everything you need to know about MX, you can find at Wonkette. I went to Wonkette. I linked the pieces that I was linking. They never talk about the white vote. Let it go. When the chat freezes, don't keep telling the host, hey, it's frozen, you froze up. Refresh your shit. Put on your mask. Save yourself first. Let it go. You know what I'm saying? When they talk about America being dog walked, which we are, I put up my piece of fact pattern emerges because Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are the ambassadors for Russia by way of Israel, respectively, to the United States. They are not serving the United States. Understand that? That is it. So in the thing, I kind of artistically put in that people are joining the chat and it takes up space. You know what I'm saying? I gave examples of what the chat looks like. Frivolous, frivolous, frivolous. Me, the primary election system was created in 1900 so private clubs could choose a white candidate. We are conditioned to cheer on the people who exclude us. And then I provided a link boop, to this piece. And that made this woman mad. I assume it's a woman. Morgan kind of gives it away. Imagery of women gives it away. I was pissed. So I kind of started going off about it. I kind of gave a history of Wonkette and its transmission over to Substack and all that stuff. My whole problem is this, and I'm not going to get critical on Wajahat Ali, but I am going to highlight this specifically. Wajahat Ali has gotten big enough in notoriety with appreciation because, oh my God, I love free content. But Wajahat Ali doesn't care if you subscribe. Subscribe if you don't. Which transferred over to Ellie Leonard doing the kind of same thing. Subscribe if you don't. With me, I recommend the people that don't say that. Give money to Kate Justice. Give money to Shane Urak. Give money to Kat. You know what I'm saying? Give money to people who are doing the work, who are cultivating. So what I want to quote is, to Wajahat Ali's George Carlin paraphrase, this is a big club, and we're growing it. Us, the Substack people, the community who is aware of who our community is, not the people who are so vast that we just know that they're there, give money or don't. You know what I'm saying? I have my critique for AG. I wrote about it. I've done vids. I'm over her. I literally do not watch Allison Gill anymore because she rubbed me the wrong way as an individual, not as a content creator. And I'm saying that as a fan of many years. Coming back to me so I can watch the chat. Yeah, Courtney. The piece was whimsical. The Let It Go piece was whimsical. I felt silly doing it, and so that's why I did it. We're in a chat with Wajahat Ali, with Lev, with Zev, with Dean, with Ellie. Thousands of people up in this joint, and of these thousands of people, like 5 people are freezing up, and then they start spamming the chat, and then they start diverting it. You know what I'm saying? And then the conversation stops being me listening about the big club that we ain't in, or me hearing about Leslie Wexner, white people, you know, and stuff like that. But when someone's in the chat and the chat starts spamming, they divert what I want to hear to, is my thing on? Is my mic? Do I need to reset? Nobody tunes in. All right, there was this one time that Fraz was doing a live and she couldn't get her mic going, and I watched that for an hour. But that was rare. I don't want to watch Waj fuck with the mic. I don't want to watch, which he don't give a fuck. And I appreciate I'm 2 ways about Waj. I am 100% all in. I don't feel like he's worth investing in because he has his investment base. Do you get what I'm saying? Shane Urak deserves an invested base. Kat over here, Kat Poly Psych over here in my chat. Kat deserves an investment base. With myself, I decided I'm not even talking about money until I have a 1,000 person free subscription base, because I just want people to read my crap. I wrote another piece about paywalls. And in it, I asked the question, do you want people to read your shit, or do you want people to pay you for who you are? Which is what OnlyFans is for, not Substack. That's kind of my tantrum piece. I wanted to talk about a little bit in my live. I feel like I have a wicked sneeze coming, and I am trying not to have it. It's in there. We're hanging. I'm going to go to my next piece, which is the one that I just talked about. The next piece that I was writing about is bellies, beds, and babies. At first, I started talking with a W.E.B. Du Bois quote. I had a homeboy, Chris Du Bois. He is W.E.B. Du Bois. In it, he just talks about how, Black folks can be a closed society. All demographics can be a closed society. What I'm talking about in this piece is the anatomy of self-sufficiency. I'm talking about the economy. I already talked about most of this piece, but feed your people, house your people, bring people's children into the world safely. Bellies, beds, babies. In it, I talk about how Black people had their societies built. The money stayed inside. And then I go over to the next piece where white people didn't like the competition. When white people had the white people stores and Black people had the Black people stores, but still accommodated white people, people started going to the Black people stores because they were accommodating their customer instead of the customer, in modern parlance, having a subscription base to that store. What happened in Tulsa happened in Tulsa. Haiti is a different example. When you have a strong place, and I'll even use Walmart as another example, separate but equal. Walmart will see you have a cottage industry. Walmart will be interested in your cottage industry. I would like to buy this cottage industry so we can sell it. You sell your business. They close the cottage industry that you can no longer be a part of. And that's what happens in these Black communities, specifically Haiti, where the federal government's like, yes, we will invest with you. Citizens vote on the investment. The citizens vote on the investment. Yes, we want it. And what does the federal government do? They raise everything and they put a freeway through that. They invested in that community and you voted for it. So that's the parallels of Walmart buying a cottage industry. I'm going to blow my nose right quick. It's important to not neglect yourself as an ecosystem. Recognize the ecosystem that an individual body is, our ego, our identity, is all in service to this ecosystem that we nearly never acknowledge. That may be a piece. Coming out of this piece. All right. Yeah, Derek, I was talking about Tulsa, Oklahoma. I talked about Tulsa. I talked about Haiti. I talked about when integration hasn't worked out well in America. The true American experience is that of the Black American, the brown American, the Native American. That's the true American experience. The rest of it is colonization. And then when we had the European wave during the World Wars I and II, I'll get to that piece in a moment. Once we had that, the white establishment already existed. You know what I'm saying? Europeans were coming to America where They saw white people because white media, and I'm saying white media because white people had all the advantages, the capital, the media, the exposure. So when they came to America from Europe, white faces look like white faces. So we forgot about the actual Americans who were already here, the ones who fought for the rights. Not, I mean, I live in the revolutionary area where we talk about Jane McCrae, where we talk about, and I'm pointing to Burgoyne Avenue, which is named after General John Burgoyne. We have signs that litter the roads, and not litter in a very official state capacity, that litter the roads saying John Burgoyne's people camped here. You know what I'm saying? So the Revolutionary War exists, but we don't think about the black people who fought for their actual rights, the rights that I was born in 77. When I was born, women could get bank accounts, women could hold credit cards themselves, individuals, unmarried. The 1968 Fair Housing Act, the 1964 Civil Rights. I was born in 77, and all of my white media was highly diverse. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Sesame Street. Sesame Street was not aimed at white America where I live. Sesame Street was aimed at, I mean, look at what is Sesame Street. It's a stoop. It's a brownstone. It's a bodega. Who was Sesame Street aimed at? Impoverished people who didn't have access to education. And, you know, even jumping into that, education is America's gimmick. You know what I'm saying? Right now, we're pulling this DEI bullshit. Oh, Derek, I'm going to check that out. There's a great podcast series that showcased the history of freemen on the frontier black cowboys. I'm going to check that out. I don't know enough. I don't know enough because when I think about cowboys, I was raised on Waylon and Willie, cowboys. When Young Guns came out, my dad geeked for that. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Rogers, I'm a Mr. Rogers guy. In my experience with Mr. Rogers, and he's benevolent, he's tolerant, he's understanding, he's calm. That's my experience with him. I didn't look far into it. I don't look far into it. He does the benefit of what I got out of him. I say the same thing about Bill Cosby because my entire life growing up was picture pages, Fat Albert, My Kids Watch Little Bill, The Cosby Show. I started my search to learn about jazz from one album, A Night in Tunisia, that Bill Cosby dedicated an entire episode to. And yeah, that was pretty cool. No, yeah, Corey, I get you, man. Back to, you know, now that I'm thinking about Sesame Street, in the beginning, before it came a United States of America product, it was speaking to impoverished neighborhoods. One of the gimmicks in the early 70s from Sesame Street was Jefferson Elementary, Washington. It was named after one of those, you know, presidents' names. But it was basically like little Muppet sweat hogs, you know what I mean, doing Sesame Street things. It was one of my favorite parts, actually. Oh, wow. I'm gonna go over to my next piece. So I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, come on, Derek. The Electric Company is where we first saw Spider-Man. Spider-Man. Let's see, where was I going next? Yeah, man, I did a lot of writing. Oh, I went too far. Hey, one thing that I want to do and be excited about is I I wrote this piece about a song called Groovy Gravy. I'm not going to play it. I want you to look at my piece. But the whole piece, and I'll read a little bit about it. In the summer of 1969, on the lot of Warner Brothers 7 Art Studios in Burbank, California, Quincy Jones assembled some of the finest musicians in Los Angeles for a job that was officially television work. Bill Cosby had a new show. Not the family sitcom that would define him for generations 2 decades later. This was the Bill Cosby Show, a quieter production where Bill Cosby played a bachelor gym teacher named Chet Kincaid. That show needed music. So my piece is about this one song, Groovy Gravy. Groovy Gravy, it's all instrumental, and he's not actually on it. He's just a jazz nut. Bill Cosby is a jazz fanatic. So what I do in this is I talk about how the music plays out to my ears. I hear a story. I've listened to this song so much that the story is real to me. So I just I typed out the thing, how I think it, how I feel it. If I write anything, this is the one piece that to me is most genuinely from my heart, because I have carried this concept only in my head. And when I finally typed it out, I'm rereading it, and I had to put my face in my hands for a second. I was getting emotional. My lip was quivering, and I'm like, why? It didn't make sense, but I validated it thinking I had given something of myself and my body actually missed it. This is actually my favorite piece. I can write pieces all day. Sometimes I write 2 and 3 because I can't stop my head. But this piece, it may not be the best written. In fact, I'd call it a 75% piece, because when the music's playing, you need me sitting next to you. You need me talking it through. I may do that too. But anyway, I named this piece and I feel very creative about it. Groovy Gravy, The Cosby Show. I spelled Cosby with a Q because Bill Cosby wasn't involved. Quincy Jones was. You know, Q. Going back over to the chat. Hey, Groovy Gravy. Yeah, Groovy Gravy. Not to be confused with Wavy Gravy, who was one of the Merry Pranksters, but Groovy Gravy. And go on to my next piece. Like I say, check out that piece. In the middle is the video. Play the music. Go to the top. Read about the piece. When I kind of go through it, because I go back and check my shit. When I go back through it, I press play and I start reading. My next piece that I had written. This is kind of fun because Trump's 6 feet seat. I'm a wrestling fan. Y'all hear about it. I write about it. It's a foundational brick in my personal content. Once The Undertaker started talking road stories. Now, he was one of the final dudes who was starting to speak about behind the curtain. Everybody else, like Kevin Nash, Steve Austin, they'd all been talking about the boys, and stuff like that. once Mark Calloway started speaking of The Undertaker and his experience. Now, I want to mind you, I said Mark Calloway because we are now behind the curtain. The Undertaker has broken kayfabe and is now speaking as Mark Calloway, but we don't know him as Mark. We know him as The Undertaker. So that's how we still refer to him. But Mark Calloway was speaking about Stories on the Road as The Undertaker. So in his podcast, he's with he has a host. He has a podcast host who is with him, Matt Lyda. And there's a couple little things. So when I listened to this interview, and they had it in two parts, 45-minute sections. I cannot stand Donald Trump. I think he's a piece of shit. The more that I dig, it's not a media impression. It's a learned and educated knowledge of this one individual man's history. I mean, there's so many books about him and his content going way back, articles written about him going way back, where he's not an unknown quantity except for in the 2026 media sphere, in which case people they just can't get the ick off, so they only talk about the stuff that isn't sticky. When I'm listening to this interview, I cut out all the bullshit. I cut out all the political stuff because I don't care. But what was cool about this interview was all of a sudden Donald Trump turned into a human being with a relative inside knowledge of a fandom. And I was really excited when this interview happened, because Donald Trump started interviewing The Undertaker. And you all of a sudden had this dude just geeking out over. One second, I got a message where I have to make sure that I'm tending to my person. All of a sudden, The Undertaker is answering questions, and he's answering questions, and Donald Trump never stops asking them, in a sense where he's just peeling off one to the other. He's asking questions, and The Undertaker's just answering a fan. It was truly one of my favorite things. Truly one of my favorite things. I'm bringing this back so I can see this message that I received from a person here. Okay. Like I say, I'm excited about my girlfriend doing her thing. She's doing a job that I'm excited about, even though it's not my job anymore. So that was kind of cool. She's just telling me a bird flew into her trailer that she's loading. And as a person who's loaded trailers, hey, look, nature. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the main screen. Yeah. Derek, even though you're probably not still in the chat, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for thanking me for being in the chat. Thank you again for listening. Thank you again for being involved. I love my person, dude. I don't get excited about stuff. You know what I'm saying? But what I appreciate about my person is she is my support system. And the only thing that I can do in respect of how she supports me is be supportive, in return. I feel like every individual should focus on working on themselves. And when they're working on themselves, find themselves a support system who is also working on themselves and able to be a support system. So it's two support systems encouraging each other to build. That's my feelings. I'm gonna move on to my next piece. Well, let me just finish a little bit. A lot of people, when they see Undertaker, when they see Donald Trump, immediately they get put off. It's not politics. This man who has an inhuman connotation, Donald Trump, is an exposed individual for like 30 minutes. And you don't see the power hungry guy. You don't see the overzealous braggadocio. I see a kid who snuck into Madison Square Garden and got to meet one of the performers. And that's what I saw. In my head, it's also Chris Farley. You remember that time you did that thing? Cool. You know what I'm saying? That's the same thing. If you don't get to just, watch the video, which politics. The piece that I wrote is fun if you're a wrestling fan, because it's a dude interviewing The Undertaker who's excited about wrestling, who happens to be the most ridiculous president of the United States ever. Yeah, so I'm gonna go over to my next piece. My next piece. Ooh. The next piece that I want to talk about is Wade Keller did it first. I don't know if you guys know who Wade Keller is. Wade Keller is a professional wrestling insider. He started in 1987, mind you. 1987 is the first season of Full House. 1987 is when Big Daddy Kane first came on the scene. That's 1987. In 1987, in Minnesota, Wade Keller started a newsletter where people were mailing him checks that he would mail the newsletter out. While we're exploring us now into what we are calling new journalism on Substack, Wade Keller was there first. Wade Keller was there when people were doing the phone-ins. Wade Keller was doing, video pods. I remember personally buying when the Hardy Boys were in WWE. I remember buying Wade Keller footage of, before then, interviews with the Hardy Boys, and stuff like that. When people were leaving WCW, they were doing interviews with Wade Keller and dishing on the product. You know what I'm saying? So that is not new. It's novel. That's within the confines of wrestling community, independent journalism, yes. But Wade Keller's exceptional in this one way. For 30 plus years, Wade Keller has been creating truth from kayfabe. Do you understand what I'm saying? Every word that Wade Keller reported on was seeing through the scripted corporate gimmick, through the character gimmicks, through protecting the business silence and kayfabe, and he was getting us the truth. Who the truth? The fans who wanted to know. I will never forget the time that I was watching a wrestling match on TV and somebody picked up bald King Kong Bundy by his hair and he went up. I had never forgotten that, because it was at that moment I was like, this is a gimmick. The difference between a mark and a smark. A mark is being pegged for a con. They are going to be played. Like how Epstein was doing his thing, Bill Clinton was a mark. Donald Trump was a mark. You get what I'm saying? You think you're in on it. You are not in on it. You are getting played. Now, a smark is who Wade Keller was target marketing. The smart mark just wanted to know what the gimmick is. Any one of us has been to a children's birthday party with a clown and whoop, they pull a quarter out of homeboy's ear. Oh, what? Now you know that quarter did not come out of somebody's orifice. It came out of a pocket. And you know the gimmick, but you're still going to delight in watching somebody pull something magic. And the magic isn't the effort. The magic is the witness of the experience. Dig what I'm saying? So the person watching the quarter be pulled from a child's ear is the smart mark, the smart who knows the gimmick. Dig it? So when I'm writing about Wade Keller did it first. I'm watching all these new people come to new journalism and they're like, oh, we're discovering new journalism. They are not. They're neglecting to recognize, as is the critique of most of my writing, white media believes they're the first, believes they're the only, believes they are the novel without knowing history, without knowing the web of fabric that creates. White media loves their Bible, don't they? One of my favorite parts in the Bible, and it has nothing to do with actual anything, is the word begot. This person begot this person, begot this person, begot this person. That's everything. Not just the Bible. That's everything. People don't think about it. Now, we get critical now. I think about Public Enemy. Elvis was a hero to most, but he never meant shit to me. Straight out racist. That sucker was simple and plain. Flavor Flav comes in. Motherfuck him and John Wayne. Now let's talk about both them cats. Real quick. Not Flav, not Chuck. Elvis. Everybody knows Big Mama Thorpe in 2026. People didn't know about that in 1958, 62. Who? Now I'm going back over to John Wayne. In America, we have cowboys. We got white dudes now loving their Americana, cracking out over Yellowstone. Cowboys were black. That's why the word boy is in it. You know what I'm saying? White people lose the information where this begot this, begot this. You know what I'm saying? And that's my point in this piece about Wade Keller. Wade Keller did it first. Wade Keller did it first. I encourage y'all to read my piece. I put some work into it. I did a little bit of digging. Wade Keller is my dude. You are not in American punditry going to find somebody else talking about Wade Keller, a kayfabe reporter in American media. But when I tell you everybody should be giving tribute and holding Wade Keller in exalt, you should be. He's on Substack. If you are interested, Wade Keller. Going back to the chats. Natasha, your husband's name's John Wayne. I love that stuff. I love meeting people whose names correlate with other stuff. You know what I'm saying? My girlfriend's name's Raven. When I'm social mediating about her, I don't type Raven. I leave the little emoji of the black bird. You know what I'm saying? I think that's fun. Yeah. No, it's okay. Hey, we don't apologize. We do better next time. People without words don't have words. Dig it? Words have no meaning, as we're learning in 2026, until they are defined at that time. Ask anybody who's used the word woke. Ask anybody who's used the word woke, but means it in the way of Furious Styles from Boys in the Hood. Dig it? Words are not defined until they're defined. That's actually how Republicans can call themselves conservative when they are anything but. That's how Republicans can talk about freedom, offering anything but. That's how AIPAC can donate funds to a PAC named We Protect Children and then load it with a bunch of people who are going to traffic their children. Yeah, same thing, Courtney M., Christian. Um, I run on 3 circles of a Venn diagram. In fact, I have a piece started in my drafts that is not finished. That's actually how I just knock out piece after piece. I start them, I think, I get out of that frame of mind, I put them down, I come back, I get angry, I write a whole piece, whole cloth. Boop, here's my piece. Substack. And that's just what I do. I wrote a piece, and everything in my life focuses on Jesus, Job, and the prodigal son. For all of the Bible that's words, for all of the meanings in the Bible that have to be explained, Jesus, Job, and the prodigal son are the three parts that I can relate to. The piece that I'm writing is Job. Jesus, Job, and the prodigal son. And right now, I'm writing from a position of Job. I'm non-secular. I have faith. I found my faith on the dance floor, not in the church. And I can't even tell you about it because my faith started when I heard somebody talking about Jack. Who is Jack? Jack is the one that told you how to rock your body. Jack is the one who taught you how to do the wiggly worm. You're not going to find that in the Bible. But I said that, and I felt the hair on my neck start jumping up because I get it. I get it. I'm not the only one specifically with that track. But who is Jack? I'm going to go over to my next piece. Go read my Wade Keller piece. It talks about how new media in this kayfabe world is anything but novel. I'm going over to my next piece. And this, okay. This piece is called Patches of Conquest, Making Fetch Happen. I was finishing my next piece, Donald Trump serves Russia. Russia. And I was editing. I was maybe halfway through editing when I'm listening to a commentator talk about the Greater Israel patch on an IDF soldier's uniform. And I was like, Greater Israel? Greater Israel is conquest. So I wrote this piece, doing research. That's what I do, man. If I want to know, I find out. And then once I find out, I test my comprehension by writing it down for other people. Why is it here? There's only so much space. I've said it before. Solids, liquids, and gas. Inside my head, every idea is a gas. When I articulate it into words, its fluidity becomes liquid. When that fluidity goes into your head and creates a gas, where you think about this as a concept, when you can articulate it to a third person, me being 1, you being 2, the third person being 3, you have created a solid. So my gas, your liquid, the solid into the next person, you solidified a concept that you could secondarily teach it. Solid, liquid, and gas. The gas starts with me. It cools into a conversation liquid that can be transferred. It's solidified as a concept when it can be shared. Dig it? So that's me. I'm curious. I think about it. I learn. I share. So this piece is the patches of conquest. It's wordy because let me. There's a difference between when I write and it's in my head. When I was when I was upset that somebody bullshitted me out of a chat, singled me out of, 1,500, 1,200, 12,000 people, that pissed me off. I wrote that. That's color. That's me putting down my work, breaking out crayons, and having a moment. When I'm writing stuff like this, it's dense. It's nutrient. Like when you get a fruit cake, when you get a pound cake, when you get a cheesecake, you can only eat a little bit because it's so rich. So when I'm writing these kind of pieces, it's so contextual. The information is there, but it's hard to make it colorful for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not making it colorful. I'm making it intent. So with this piece, Patches of Conquest, I'm talking about these three patches. The crown. They're killing to bring back Jesus. They're killing to bring back Jesus. This is a man-made concept. This is a man-made intention. It is uniting people behind a goal. And then is the temple. This is why it was so important for them to move the embassy to Jerusalem. The right-wingers, the Zionists, the Confederate Americans who are currently running our government. Because it's all prophecy. So that's what this patch represents. So immediately, IDF folks are wearing validation to kill people, validation to steal land and territory for devious purpose, and then the Greater Israel patch, which shows a map that's designated in the Bible to God's children as per the Torah. And these Zionists, these false faith people have usurped this biblical concept of Mediterranean truth from years ago, and they've turned it into a modern mechanic where they have usurped it like a coat, and then they are running the dead body of what used to be the biblical Israel, or has promised the biblical Israel as their goal, which is now being lobbied by Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner to America, which is now all of the money that is going into our media, our elections, our campaigns, is all going towards this goal of the Greater Israel. It's dangerous. I don't approve of it. And I have a piece later about Josh Shapiro. This is specifically why Josh Shapiro cannot be a candidate for the American presidency. I mean, specifically, Josh Shapiro cannot be our candidate. He's an IDF soldier. He didn't serve the American military. He served Israel's. The one. The IDF who's wearing patches of Greater Israel, which is a conquest patch, replacing people from that region, Semitics, with Zionists, European and Eastern European settlers, murderers. the causers of genocide. Dig it? Cool. I'm going to go to my next piece. My next piece, also very dense, also very data driven, not exactly fun. I made it fun. I want to talk about the images that I used. I went real. I went with pictures of Donald Trump marrying Ivana. It takes place in 1977. I was born in 1977. I'm as old as Elvis is dead. I'm as old as rap music. I'm as old as Donald Trump is a Russian asset. That's what I get from this piece. In it, I talk about the lineage of his role as an asset. In it, I also talk about things that he's done that benefited Russia. I talk about where he was utilized, when he was communicated with. And in the end, Donald Trump's an asset. And what I learned, I was able to put into this piece. Not a lot to it. Wait, there is a lot to it. You got to read it. He's a piece of shit. He's an asset. Every single move that he makes is in benefit to Russia. Every single. Every little thing she does is magic. Hey, real quick, the Police. The drummer for the Police never wrote anything down. He jammed and tried again. The lead singer of the Police sang the melody, played the rhythm. I'm fascinated by that. I'm not a Sting fan. I don't give a crap about the mandolin. But boy, did I like that the early 80s Police. The thing that I get about it that I find fascinating, yes, the music, yes, the culture, yes, all this. The value of those people at that time, that genre, they were unemployed. There was low employment. People had time to play in a band and jam because they didn't have jobs. You know what I'm saying? Those dudes were the everyman youth who hadn't made the transition from being a kid to being an adult. So kind of being a loser and a scrub was the gimmick of that genre of music. And I think that's actually what I like about it, the scrubness. You know what I mean? They were pulling from some different places as far as where they were getting their sound. That's why the Police sounds unique, because they weren't run of the mill. On to my next piece. My next piece, and this is my last two. Sarah Longwell loves Josh Shapiro. I have a problem with the Bulwark. I have a problem with Crooked Media. I have a problem with Midas Touch. I have a problem with the YouTube genre of new media, which is actually starting to look like old media. I got a problem with them. I specifically have a problem with Sarah Longwell because everything in her career has come from the wrong angle of commentary. And I'm not just talking about her role as the Bulwark sweetheart, because as a character, I want to hang with Sarah Longwell. I want to sit across from her, and I want to dialogue so we can level set some truth. As far as I'm concerned, she wholeheartedly bought the white media op. The Republicans do this, Democrats do this. It's a con. The whole thing is a con. Our political system was started in like 19 no. Our primary system was started like around 1904. It was two private clubs choosing the white candidate they approved of. In the South, there was only the Democratic Party, so that mattered. So, the Democratic club chose the white candidate. And so that way, black folks couldn't choose their candidate to be black. Black folks had to choose and support a white candidate. That's the whole premise. So now we have two parties. The private club joint was stopped in 1944, but it just got shifted around and moved. The Democratic primary as we know it, I'm going from my head, I feel is like commissioned in 74, I believe. And from that primary system, with the two clubs choosing a candidate who was not black, it turned into the primary system, where now our media system. Now you think after 2000, all of the people who ran campaigns, all of the pollsters, all of the opposition, all of the spin doctors, I'm speaking specifically to Tim Miller on this one, but all of the spin doctors got turned into, people who were in campaigns, people who were on campaigns. And if you notice, our media right now focuses extremely hard on polling. And then they're convincing you, people don't care about it's all about vibes. People don't care about their candidate. All that matters, would they have a drink with them? These people coming from campaigns, the pollsters, the spin doctors, specifically the Sarah Longwells that want to put everybody in a pigeonhole so they could only speak to this type of person. As I've written before, when the Longwell group is looking for somebody, a demographic, they put an ad in no different than when they're looking for an actor to play a part, a role. So they say, we are looking for XYZ. Is this you? Contact us. And then those people contact them. They read the script in their version of identity so that they can have that. I keep looking down at my little ass picture down here. I feel like I need to look at a face when I'm talking. And so they look at this character. They act out this character. Sarah Longwell, oh, this is great. She goes back to her focus group podcast with her friend, whoever, and they talk about it in white people terms about the very niche acting and performance that they just saw. Sarah Longwell is in a same-sex relationship. She has children. She speaks progressively and then promotes the dichotomy of Democrats X, Republicans Y. There are 4 people in my home who live here, 2 cats. Not a goddamn one of us can agree on dinner. Girl dinner ends up being a thing because go fend for yourself is the decision. You know what I'm saying? Me, myself, everybody gets along. We prepare the food. We sit at a table. When I have my way, that's what happens. If everybody else has their way, girl dinner, which is like a stalk of celery and an Andes mint. I don't know. So I'm coming back to my Sarah Longwell piece. Sarah Longwell heavily pushes Josh Shapiro. Who is Josh Shapiro? Josh Shapiro is a former IDF soldier, heavily promotes Zionist values, heavily was discounted by the Harris campaign because of his pro-Zionist views. It doesn't poll well with progressives. Little known fact, not because of the due diligence. When they did the autopsy of why Kamala Harris didn't do well, support for Israel, lack of support for Palestine was the reason. Josh Shapiro is not the guy. Dear Sarah Longwell, you pollster human being, the American people already have said in polls they do not want Josh fucking Shapiro. But when I see Sarah Longwell with her face in the camera, is James Tallarico maybe a new kind of Democrat? Me yelling at the screen, he's a Republican! He's an evangelical! James Tallarico, as I've said many times, is the Trojan horse that white evangelicals are going to hide in until it's time to be a Republican again. James Tallarico, he ain't it. That's basically the premise of my Sarah Longwell piece. She's a chump. Josh Shapiro's a chump. The Bulwark, all this shit that's going on in Iran. Bill Kristol, the co-founder of the Bulwark, this was Bill Kristol's plan since 2000, since earlier. This is the neoliberal plan, so much that he restarted groups after the Iran bombing. Because, hey, this is what I was talking about. The Bulwark is not it. The Bulwark is not progressive. The Bulwark does not push progressive means. The Bulwark does not give progressive journalism. The Bulwark is people. The Bulwark is white people who bought the white narrative, who were conditioned by white TV that this is America, a dichotomy of Democrats who act like this, Republicans who act like this, and she's just wrong. I don't know what else to say. There's my image of Sarah Longwell loving Bill Kristol. There's my image of Josh Shapiro loving Israel. That's about all I got to say about that. Ba-dum-ba-ba-ba. I'm loving it. You know what I'm saying? All right. Coming back to the chat. Okay. I'm going to share my screen and do my last piece. Wait, no, I'm not. I'm going to sidetrack. Before I do my last piece, I want to show you a different piece. A piece about your boy and mine, James Tallarico. James Tallarico is basically Beto O'Rourke 2.0. There are 50 United States. Texas is one. Why? Is Beto O'Rourke in the past on everybody's progressive screens? I live in upstate New York. People online, because we're all one family online, they ask why there isn't more outrage. I'm happy where I live. I love where I live. I have no gripes about the place that I live. We don't have ridiculous things. People are tolerant, even though you will see that we're Elise Stefanik's district. So, I mean, there is that. But she had to pretend to be a moderate in order to get elected. Do you know what I'm saying? We got gay people. We got trans people. We got interracial people. We got mixed people. I'm happy where I live. What I'm not happy about is Quaker Road. For example, Quaker Road has, and I'm doing a quick ad, like maybe around 10 car sales lots as they're building more. And as oil prices are going through the roof, The region in our area that has money is investing more money in car sales. Car sales is a subscription service to service. It is literally buying an item that you have to keep paying money for in order to use. That's what we're doing by spending so much money on cars. In the meantime, you have to drive past all those car places to get to the location where you can buy your foods, your clothes, your necessities. Around where I am, like we got Stewart's, we got Cumberland Farms, we got Market 32. That's it. Unless you want to drive 20 minutes to go get other stuff that aren't the bare necessities. Got those bare necessities. Y'all know about Baloo? Those simple bare necessities. So anyway, back to my piece, because I get distracted. James Tallarico is Beto O'Rourke 2.0. I'm bringing that to this article. Like I say, I'm not reading it. I want you to read it. I want you to share it. But yeah, basically, we're being conned by white media. I have a theme. So anyway, this article is James Tallarico, Beto O'Rourke 2.0. More white, more biblical, more media. Yeah, I thought that was fun. So my final piece that I wrote today, my Sarah Longwell piece was inspired. I was watching the Vanguard, and they were talking about Josh Shapiro's. Josh Shapiro was interviewed on Crooked by John Lovett, and the interview was trash. So the Vanguard was kind of giving commentary to it. So the mock candidate, the bullshit candidate, the implied white candidate was interviewed by a former campaign aide and then covered by two white dudes who are content creators who comment on white media and white media coverage. So I thought, hey, I'm going to cover that. So I call it trad media circle jerk. White media gets the gas face. The gas face is a reference to third base. Do-doom, 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 doom. Third base is MC Search and Prime Minister Pete Nice. And in it, the whole premise of the gas face is white people taking advantage of black people and taking credit for it and getting paid. So that's my whole theme on the gas face. Trad media circle jerk, white media gets the gas face. The gas face looks like this. The gas face. So what I have here is a heavy critique on white media. I can speak in a bunch of circles. I'm going to speak about it in this simple way because I've already written about it. The Mayday Network. The Mayday Network are two people, Progressive Now, but they come from the Seneca Project, which is more right-leaning, but women-fronted. Suffrage has goals in suffrage, and women-fronted. Julie Roginski comes from, I did say Michelle Kenney from Seneca. Julie Roginski comes from Fox News. She was one of the whistleblowers. That was her environment. She's corporate involved. When I'm watching Mayday, I am very interested in Julie Roginski, born in Russia, came to America in the 80s. Her whole family lineage is that of being Jewish, but they were like refuseniks and stuff like that. So 1980, she comes to America. And I am very interested in her personal, individual life story. I find her absolutely fascinating. Um, so that's why I always plug in. I always type the first thing I type. I'm here for Julie until Dana Dubois was on, in which case I typed I'm here for Dana because of course I am. I support my smaller community people. Um, Michelle Kenny, she's from my area. I don't know where. I don't look it up because I don't care. But I hear it in her voice. The connotation in her voice, the name drops that she does on things. She is from my area, and I intentionally don't look her up because I don't want to feel like I'm stalking somebody. Same thing with Malcolm Nance. He talks about I-87. I live like 10 minutes from I-87. Which exit, Daddy? Which exit? So the Mayday Network. Michelle Kenny's always talking about, oh, well, on the Bulwark, oh, my friends over at Crooked, when you were on MS Now, oh, you're not going to be allowed on CNN anymore. Now, I just created a circle where they get their information from, the circle of people that they interact with on the offline, so they can negotiate stuff. I have the similar critique to like Crooked. You know what I'm saying? The black people who end up on Crooked: Stacey Abrams, Ta-Nehisi Coates, Gwen Ifill, when it's like George Floyd serious. You know what I'm saying? There isn't a diversity of intellectual black people showing up on this stuff. Mind you, I was listening to an interview with Karen Hunter the other day, and I even messaged Narrative like, dude, give me dirt. She invited Tim Miller from the Bulwark onto her show. Karen Hunter, Urban View, Karen Hunter, black audience, invited Tim Miller from the Bulwark onto her show. Flat out said no. Me, I'm messenger. What was the topic? What were you going to speak to him about? What did you have prepared? I want to know. Because if I can't get that interview, I want to know the potential of what he was hiding from. Black media is trying to pull us in. White media wants nothing. Who do I hear? I've been hearing Conscious Lee, the Conscious Lee being name dropped a little bit more in our social circles of social media, but not on mainstream media. But the Conscious Lee, he's on Urban View also. Karen Hunter, Roland Martin, Greg Carr, the Reed Daniel Favors. You know what I'm saying? There are whole networks of black media that cover news. As a matter of fact, if you go to Roland S. Martin right now on YouTube, he is always live. He's always got QRs so you could fund it independently and give money to a product that you believe in. You know what I'm saying? So this piece, I call it the trad media circle jerk. White media gets the gas face. And it's exactly what I point out. White people cover white people, and they don't cover news. A point that comes into my writing that's here: a quarter, less than a quarter of our media coverage covers issues, covers policy, covers, oh, there it is, the words that I was looking for. In the 2016 general election, policy issues accounted for 10% of news coverage, less than a fourth of the space given to the horse race. But you guys love your Steve Kornacki with his khakis. But you love your whoever that pops up at the big board. You love whoever is coming up and giving their input, who is from a campaign, who is from a polling agency, who is from an opposition network: Tim Miller, Liz Smith, George Stephanopoulos. I went back. Those people are the people giving us the news. No, they aren't giving us the news. We don't care about news. All we care about is vibes. All we care about is vibes. How you feel? How you feel? Vibes. Coconut. Brat summer. And that's why we get stuck electing motherfuckers that we want to get a beer with because we don't know what's in their heads. Let me jump on your boy James Tallarico for a second. Anyway, here's my piece. White people. Actually, I'm just using this to show off my graphic art that I found. White people, speaking to white people, they're being influenced by the media apparatus that taught them, that trained them. They don't know that they've been groomed to only see white culture. They don't realize it. They promote it. They facilitate it. I wrote a piece, and I'm tired of linking it, but I'm not. And it's called They Don't Talk About the White Vote. You never hear a poll saying, well, the white people, it's always the black people, the brown people, soccer moms, black people with educations. Going on that, black people with educations. The big kick about Target and the Target boycott, right? No, it is not a fast. Everybody in the black community I listen to, they're asking, who paid this dude? Because he must have got a check because nobody was talking to him. So the Target boycott, Target said that they were going to give money to HBCU. Fine. Black people. On a spreadsheet, we gave money to black people. Congratulations. You put a debit in your checking account over black people. How many people are going to college? When I first got excited about Greg Carr, I started learning he's a professor at Howard. I started looking up Howard. You know what the first everything that I got about Howard after the initial, introduction to Howard and all that stuff? I got YouTube videos of people putting their faces on screens, apologizing to family for dropping out of Howard, explaining why they're dropping out of Howard. And it all comes down to one thing. Not everybody can afford to go to Howard. So Target saying they're going to give money to HBCU is elitism. Because they aren't putting a Target store in the food deserts. They're putting money in the pockets of people who have enough money to go to college. Let me ask you this. Where did Epstein funnel his influence? Dig what I'm saying? The pipeline of Epstein to colleges was lucrative. And that's how we end up with the Zorro Ranch. And they're trying to create Julius from the movie Twins by combining sperms and eggs of accomplished people. Julius. They're trying to make the movie Twins on Zorro Ranch. Anyway, that's my big gripe. This is my big write-up. I referenced the gas face. And like I say, I make jokes for myself inside my writing. This image right here, God, this was a struggle to get to happen. But in the video, MC Search, Black cat is bad luck. Bad guys wear black. Must have been a white guy who started all that. Make the gas face with all those little white lies. And then this starts happening. He's in a classroom with the devil. And the devil takes his little pitchfork and he points to lack of knowledge, lack of education equals the devil. That's what's on the blackboard right there. I wrote a whole piece. I could have just sat on this image and laughed for days because it was a lot of work to get it, to create it, to make that dynamic. And it wasn't as easy as like, here, take a picture, because there is no solid picture to have gotten it. I fought with ChatGPT to get this joint. And I'm not shy about saying that's how I got the image. America, that's what we do. Unsharing screen. Boop. I said boo. Damn it. Beavis. Hey. All right. Well, Courtney, I see your thing. Yeah, that's concerning. Wonder how much money that horse race coverage is raking in on Polymarket. Let us do a little research on Pete Rose. Clackety clackety clack. Pete Rose got kicked out of baseball. Pete Rose got kicked out of baseball because he was betting on his own games. You dig what I'm saying? Right now, America is being run by Polymarket. Shit is happening. Markets are moved. Decisions are made based on people trying to make money on crypto and Polymarket. We are in the Pete Rose economy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm still happy about that. I almost thought about making that, because I grew up. I say I was born the same year as rap, 1977. Da, da, da. I still think that Nile Rodgers needs to give money to the people who did Sugar Hill Gang, not the people in the Sugar Hill Gang. The person who wrote the rhymes that Sugar Hill Gang took. Because at that time, you just spit. You just spit. And it wasn't like now you have to have a dense, like I know my personal, like if I had to go from the top of the dome, so much funk, the earth moves when I step. When these lips begin to spit, I'm about to catch wreck. Oh, heck. You wouldn't hit a man with specs. But when I step up to the mic, I'm going to come correct. I have a canned rhyme. The canned rhymes in people's heads before rhymes were everywhere and the construct existed. Before people sat down and wrote the alphabet on top of their page and just started rhyming on their yellow legal pad. You went with what you went. Ha ha! Strong like Superman, man. I'm here and I can eat soup out of a can, man. That was rap. That was early. That was when disco hadn't met the street cipher yet. You know what I'm saying? That was a few years. Anyway, those are my pieces that I wrote. I want to get up and talk about them. Man, I can't believe how much time just passed by. But I know my lady's about to eat lunch shortly, and I want to be available so I can listen to her about her day. I want to thank all 20 people in this chat. I really appreciate y'all checking in on me. I've been dipping out of stuff because, like I said, I lost my job. So I kind of been in a funk. You know what I'm saying? When you're in a state of existence and you have a confidence. When you are not yet, you're not confident, no matter how certain. You dig what I'm saying? But hey, I'm Nick G. I'm a dude on the couch. If you plant me, I grow. If you are going to believe in someone, why not believe